Ready? Okay, all right, guys. So first of all, where is the kidney located at? So we call it the flank area, but it's in the posterior abdominal wall. We call it the flank region, so it's towards the back, right? It's right under the rib cage and there in the back. It has a fat layer on it. What's the whole point of that fat layer? What does it do? It's a protective layer. Good. What is the area called where the actual vessels in the ureter connects to the kidneys? It's called the hilum section. Good. All right, so we know these crazy guys called nephrons, right? They're the actual filtration unit of the kidneys. Where are they found in the actual kidney? They're between what and what? Cortex. Between the cortex and the medulla. That's where you're going to find them. There's thousands of these guys, okay? Right? On the structures of the actual nephron, we have an artery that goes in, a big fat one that goes in, and a little skinny one that comes out. What does that cause to happen? Increase in what?
Pressure.
In pressure. And it's pressure within the little cluster of capillaries, which is called what? What's that cluster of capillaries called? The big ball. It's called the glomerulus. That's the actual thing that's doing the filtration, but the filtration unit is the nephron. Where the actual filtration takes place is in that cluster of capillaries called the glomerulus. Okay? Surrounding that cluster of capillaries, that's called the glomerulus, we have something called the Bowman's capsule that surrounds it. It just encircles it like a ball. Okay? How many layers does it have? Two layers, right? And so it's through pressure, it's getting, all the substances are being pushed through there. What is getting filtered through there? Not blood, but plasma is what's actually getting filtered into there. What things should not go through there, should not fit through those openings? Protein.
Erythrocyte.
And yeah, thank you. Erythrocytes. We used our big word. So erythrocytes, red blood cells, or protein should not fit through there. Okay. In this process, let's see, we go through here. Okay, so we said that. So if we see red blood cells or protein in there, what do we know is going on? Could be an infection, could be hypertension, could be diabetes, but we have damage to that glomerulus in some way, shape, or form. We have damage if we're seeing blood, or protein in the actual urine. Okay. If the filtration happens, if it's too much pressure and it's happening too fast, what happens? We lose what? Nutrients and water. So it's going too quick and we lose that water and the nutrients. If it's too slow, we're absorbing toxins. Good. Toxins are being reabsorbed. So we want it to be just right. Okay. Now the process to help maintain a steady blood pressure related to this, so we have drop in blood pressure. What's the first substance that gets released? Renin. I don't think the guy called it renin, but yes, renin. And then renin then stimulates what? Angiotensin 1, which then turns into angiotensin 2, which then stimulates the release of aldosterone. Aldosterone causes your body to retain what two things? Sodium. And then what follows sodium? Water. Okay, so therefore the blood pressure will go up. Okay. ACE inhibitors block this, so they make your blood pressure stay low. In which part? They stop what?
Angiotensin. Between 1 and 2.
Between 1 and 2. Very good. So it blocks 1 from turning into 2. Hence, angiotensin converting enzyme blocker. That's what it is. All right. There's that. All right. In the one section that I want you to look at was in that descending loop of the nephron. What is leaving the actual nephron tube? What's leaving? What's going out? What does aldosterone cause to go out? Water. Okay. If I take Lasix, what happens to that water? Does it go out or does it stay in?
It stays in.
It stays in, and therefore that's why Lasix or furosemide makes you urinate more. Good. Okay. What percentage of the actual filtered blood actually turns into urine? 1%. So 99% of it gets reabsorbed back into the body. Okay. So we said it should not contain protein, it should not contain blood cells, and it also should not contain what else? Glucose. So it has all the waste products is the only thing that should be in the waste products, but it should not be glucose, it should not be protein, it should not be blood in there. Okay. All right. In the bladder, we know it has rugae. Rugae means it has lots of what?
Folds.
Folds, so that it has the ability to expand. So it has a great ability to expand. It goes from the kidneys down those two tubes. What are those tubes called again? Those are called the ureters. So the ureters lead to the bladder. The bladder has the folds in it so it can expand. And then we have how many sphincters on the actual bladder itself? 2. We have an internal and external. Okay. I'll skip that section here. So we'll move over to here. So on that note, you have conscious control of which sphincter? External. The internal kind of has a mind of its own, the internal sphincter. So it's going to say, you should pee, and you say, no, it's not a good time to pee. I'm standing here talking to you guys. Not a good time. I don't have to pee right now. I'm just saying. What part of the brain controls urination then? The pons. Good. It's the pons that controls it. Why are females more prone to urinary tract infections? Shorter urethra. So that's the urethra, the opening out to the outside. That's the tube that leads to the opening to the outside world. The opening to the outside world is called the what?
Meatus.
The meatus, and we're not going to talk about that. Okay. on the male, you have the meatus, the urethra, but then we have something that surrounds the urethra. What is that?
Prostate.
The prostate. Good. It's much longer. All right. Now it has to be on the recording. Now I've got to do this off the top of my head here. So let me sit down for a second. Hemodialysis. We'll start with that. So hemodialysis is they take a needle, and where are they putting it? Where are they putting this big giant needle into? It's going to be in an AV fistula, which is a combination of an artery and a vein together, right? That AV fistula is going to have 2 things. When I feel it, I'm going to feel a what? What does it describe? It's called a thrill. And if I listen to it, it's going to have a bruit is what it's called, okay? And that's just the turbulence that's going on in that AV fistula. So I hook it up, two openings. We have 2 different tubes when you hook it up to it. One of the tubes goes up into a machine, filters it, and then it brings it back to the patient's body. This takes several hours to do, okay? Now, peritoneal dialysis, they have what type of solution are we using? A big bag of it. It's a huge bag, guys, a big hypertonic solution, and they put it into where? The peritoneal cavity. So the actual space that surrounds the organs that fill it up with this fluid. And then, do they immediately put the bag down and let it drain? No. They have to let it sit for a long period of time to absorb water and absorb all the toxins from that patient's body. But then after they waited, they then put it down and it drains all that excess crap out of there. I said crap on the recording, sorry, but we drains the excess stuff out of there. Okay, so that's peritoneal dialysis. What's another name for a kidney stone?
Renal calculi.
Not like I said it, right? Renal calculi. That's a renal calculi. And what is one of the ways that we're going to get rid of that? What is it called? It's called a lithotripsy, where they take an ultrasonic, high-frequency sound waves, they blast it into pieces with these sound waves, and therefore it's easier to pass. If we don't do that, we let the patient pass the stone, and we have to do what to their urine?
Filter it.
We have to filter it and check it. And once we catch the stone, if we catch the stone, what do we do with that stone?
Send it to the lab.
Send it to the lab so they can check it out and see what is it made out of. Say, what do we need to avoid eating in the future? What else did I forget? I think was that all the extra stuff that I said on there? I think so. Okay, that's it.